Following the massive hands-off protests that took place on April 5th, we keep asking ourselves, or at least I do, is this the great white awakening that we've been waiting for? Because following the murder of George Floyd, white allies took to the streets demanding equality, demanding police brutality end. And then all of a sudden, so is this the moment where white Americans say, hmm, maybe something is wrong with our government? We shall see, dear friends. We shall see. But there is one thing for sure about what is happening right now. Black Americans aren't surprised. While white Americans seem absolutely shocked and startled and surprised by the weaponization against them that is happening at the hands of Donald Trump and our government, Black Americans aren't surprised at all. And my friend, Dr. Christina Greer, wrote an incredible piece in the New York Times entitled Black Americans Are Not Surprised. But before we dive into her brilliant piece, my dear friends, I would love to take a moment to tell you to subscribe to the Danielle Moodie channel if you are liking what you are hearing right now. Folks, we are so close to 25,000 subscribers. And why should you subscribe? Because I give you the unvarnished truth. You know, it's kind of like a shot that you swallow. It's hard, but it gets the job done. And that is what I do here on the Danielle Moodie Show. So like, comment, and subscribe. Let's grow our numbers and hit that 25,000 mark. Okay. So, folks, Black people, not surprised. Why? Because we've been here before. And my friend, Dr. Christina Greer, in her piece, dives into it. So here's what she writes. Again, Black people are not surprised. Far too many well-meaning white Americans have been what I like to call ally ostriches, believing in progress while burying their heads in the sand and when discussions around the past become uncomfortable. Or newer Americans, perhaps the children of immigrants of recent decades, who don't see what business it is of theirs, what violence slave owners or Jim Crow enforcers visited on their fellow citizens, or the legacy of it. And now some of them are seeing people who look like them summarily deported. How did it happen? You know, for me, it isn't a question of how did it happen. The question is, why? Why doesn't white America choose to reflect on its own history? And I will tell you that this week on MSNBC, Eddie Glaude Jr. asked that very same question. He posed and he said, why did 77 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump, why did they do so? He asked that question and he answered, in part, they decided to destroy the republic rather than elect a Black woman. I, too, wrote about my thoughts about the lack of white reflection in my Substack, The Damn Digest, which you should all subscribe to and check out. But I want you to listen because some refer to what Eddie Glaude Jr., Princeton professor, author, scholar, what he offered on MSNBC as a rant. So I want you to take a listen and you tell me whether or not you think this was a rant or clarity.
I don't know what it's going to take for the American people, for 78 million Americans to deal with what motivated them to make the choice to elect this man again, to make the choice that will allow these people to undermine every fundamental assumption we have, that you can just be disappeared, and then they can argue that, a court is getting in the way of their ability to exercise, foreign policy in some ways, right? I don't know what it's going to take for 78 million Americans to deal with what motivated them to make this choice. And the choice that they've made, we have to just be honest, is to literally throw the republic into the trash bin. And this is just one example. The tariffs is another, right? They made the choice. Now, what was behind it? We have to grapple with it, because it's the snake, it's the beast coiled up in the heart, the bosom of the country, as Frederick Douglass said. And the fact that they are doubling down on this shows you what kind of human beings they actually are.
Say more.
We chose a felon who is more interested in loyalty, who's more interested in retribution, who's more interested in grift than in democracy. And we chose a felon because we didn't want to elect a black woman. So to read that, to actually explicate that, is to say we would rather destroy the republic than for that to have happened. And until we grapple with it, there's no amount of protesting I could do. There's no amount of resistance that could come into play to actually force 78 million people to grapple with what motivated them to put themselves in this position.
That's the question, right? And I know, for one, and I wrote this in my piece, that I am tired of having to unpack white grievance and having to understand why they will choose to cut off their nose to spite their face, rather than actually look at their face in the mirror and ask deep questions. But I don't know about you, but it didn't seem like a rant to me. It seemed clear as day. But here's the other thing, folks. Do you know what else seems clear as day? While we wait on the great white awakening that I pray is actually happening at this moment, do you know what is happening? A hell of a grift that is taking place in broad daylight. Donald Trump, as we watch the markets go up and down, has been playing a game of chicken with the world. And you know what? He was the first to blink. Now, I'm not an economist, but here's what I do know, is that Donald Trump could care less about the state of the world. He could care less about your 401k or your pension, how you will live out your golden years, right, on the money that you saved. He doesn't care about that. But what he does care about is continuing to fatten his own pockets. But the grift is clear. It's so clear that even Fox News couldn't deny it. Take a look at this clip.
Well, I mean, because of the mixed messaging, how can you doubt them? I mean, let's be clear what happened. Who capitulated here and why? And I don't want to say this because I'm a patriot. I'm an American. But it is the White House who capitulated based on everything I hear and all my sources. And the reason why is because of the bond market and what happened last night. Bessent knows this better than anybody. When you have yields on the 10-year rising to 5%, stuff starts shutting down. When you have the lending markets screwed up. By the way, who was dumping the bonds? Somebody asked them if it was China, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't. It was Japan. While he was negotiating with Japan, according to my sources, who are running major money management firms that are involved in the bond market, without giving up names, Japan was dumping bonds because they believed this was not a great place to do business. That forced their hands. Now, what you can say, I think, legitimately here, is Trump decided to take the win. And here's why. there was overwhelmingly, deal potential here among the entire world, except for maybe China, right? Everybody really wanted something. So he did take the win, but make no mistake about it. Peter Navarro was talking as of yesterday about not taking the win, and now they did. And it's all because of the bond market. I want to point out.
And it's like, oh, and Peter Navarro was talking. Was he talking to Ron Vera? You know, the fictional expert that he made up for his book that Jared Kushner picked him out of Amazon for, and then poof, he becomes the economic advisor, and it's all tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Nonetheless, there is something good in all of this today, which is that an investigation seems to be underfoot. Adam Schiff calls for insider trading investigation into Trump over tariffs. Because here's what it looks like, folks. There are a handful of Senate Democrats that are actually getting to work. We watched Cory Booker with his 25-hour speech. We've watched Bernie Sanders go into rural areas. And now Senator Adam Schiff is saying, it seems odd to me that moments before Trump put a 90-day pause on 75% of tariffs, that the NASDAQ skyrocketed before the announcement actually came out. And then you have folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene that were all up in the stock market, just buy, because they all said buy the dip, right? You can only buy the dip when you actually have money. But there's one thing that Senator Adam Schiff actually knows. He knows a rat when he sees one. And so Schiff is the first senator to openly call for a congressional investigation into potential insider trading by the Trump administration in the aftermath of the president's abrupt reversal on the implementation of new tariffs. Such investigations would typically fall under the purview of powerful congressional panels like the Senate Judiciary Committee or the Senate Finance Committee. Both are chaired by Republicans, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa and Senator Mike Crapo of Idaho. Oh, that's aptly named, who have largely avoided conflict with the White House. Individual lawmakers like Schiff can investigate matters using personal office staff, though such investigations would lack subpoena power. But here's the thing. Adam Schiff knows how to utilize the media. He knows how to tell a story and to get that story to stick into the minds of the American people. Because there is one thing that we can say that we all share. We don't like it when the rich get richer off of our backs and laugh all the way to the bank. We don't love a grift, and we don't like our noses to be rubbed in it the way that the Trump regime is doing right now. So keep your eyes on Adam Schiff and an investigation that we hope will be on the front of major papers and also on cable news, because I, for one, am going to be keeping my eye on it here. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show Weekend Edition. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe.